Sometimes, life throws us curveballs we never saw coming. Caleb's story begins not with triumph, but with struggle, loss, and rebuilding from the ground up. He was a man broken by betrayal, standing at a crossroads between his past mistakes and the future he desperately wanted to create. In the wake of a painful divorce, Caleb was left to pick up the pieces. His world shattered, his business in jeopardy, his heart heavy with unanswered questions. But in every broken piece lies the potential for something greater. This is the story of how Caleb found his way back, not just to his career, but to himself. From picking up the tools to rebuilding trust, this journey is about more than just fixing cars. It's about fixing lives, healing wounds, and discovering the true meaning of strength. Join us as we dive into Caleb's incredible transformation, through betrayal, heartache, and redemption. This is more than a story about survival. It's a story about growth, love, and learning to trust again. This is Caleb's journey, and it's just getting started. Caleb Davis, a hardworking man in his early 40s, is the owner of a small auto repair shop in a quiet suburban town. He is a man of routine, early mornings, long hours fixing cars, and a quiet life. But his personal life is anything but predictable. Caleb has been married to Veronica for over 12 years, and recently, their marriage seems to be falling apart. Despite their once strong connection, Veronica has become more distant, her affections cold and her attention diverted elsewhere. Caleb starts noticing subtle changes, missed dates, unreturned calls, and long hours spent away from home, which lead him to feel like a stranger in his own marriage. As the days go by, Caleb's suspicions grow. Veronica is often absent, attending social events without him and coming home late with the faint scent of another man's cologne on her clothes. Caleb begins to notice little things that he didn't before, the way she avoids eye contact, the sudden secrecy surrounding her phone, and the nights she stays out longer than she should. His thoughts spiral into doubt, and he struggles with the idea that the woman he once loved might no longer be the same person. The tension between them builds, and Caleb is forced to confront his feelings of betrayal. One evening, Caleb's worst fears come true. After months of suspicions, Caleb discovers that Veronica has been having an affair with Evan Miller, a colleague from her work. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. Veronica's indifference toward their marriage is now evident, and Caleb is left with a broken heart. When he confronts her, Veronica's response is cold, dismissive, and unapologetic. She tells Caleb that their marriage has been over for years and that the affair with Evan is just an escape. The confrontation ends in a painful silence, with Caleb questioning everything he thought he knew about love and commitment. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Caleb seeks legal advice. He meets with a seasoned attorney, Naomi Fisher, who helps him navigate the divorce process. Naomi reassures Caleb that he has a strong case, but it won't be easy. As Caleb begins to prepare for the divorce, he gathers evidence, photos, texts, and emails between Veronica and Evan, as well as financial records showing that Veronica has been siphoning off money for her secretive plans. Caleb is determined to hold his ground, ensuring that Veronica doesn't take what is rightfully his, including his business. The legal proceedings are intense. Caleb and Naomi use the evidence they've gathered to challenge Veronica's claims and fight for the auto shop and their home. Veronica attempts to manipulate the system by fabricating stories and playing the victim, but Caleb's case is strong. In a tense court session, the judge rules in Caleb's favor, awarding him full custody of the property and assets, including the business he worked so hard to build. The legal battle has taken a toll on him, but Caleb feels a sense of victory, knowing he's been able to preserve his hard-earned life. Despite winning the legal battle, Caleb's heart is still filled with anger and resentment. He can't let go of the pain Veronica and Evan have caused him. Caleb secretly plots his revenge. He digs into Evan's past and uncovers details about his gambling debts and criminal activities. Using his connections, Caleb tips off the wrong people, setting a trap for Evan that results in his debts being exposed. Evan's life quickly unravels as his past catches up with him, leaving him isolated and vulnerable. Meanwhile, Veronica, cut off from Caleb's financial support, finds herself struggling to maintain her lifestyle. Her affair with Evan also dissolves, leaving her emotionally and financially ruined. In the months following the fallout, Caleb begins to heal. He immerses himself in his work, dedicating long hours to his auto repair shop. The business flourishes, and Caleb regains his confidence and sense of self-worth. One day, while working on a car at the shop, he meets Grace, a kind-hearted woman who recently moved to the town. Grace is warm, understanding, and supportive, and over time, Caleb begins to open up to her. Though his scars from the past remain, he allows himself to slowly fall in love again. Grace helps Caleb rediscover the joy in life, and for the first time in years, he feels a sense of hope for the future. As Caleb and Grace continue to grow closer, Caleb reflects on the journey he's been through. He realizes that revenge, while sweet in the moment, only left him with more pain and emptiness. What truly mattered was his strength to rebuild his life, his ability to find peace within himself, and to embrace love and trust again. Caleb's story is a reminder that while betrayal can break us, it also has the power to teach us resilience, self-respect, and the importance of moving forward. As Caleb looks to the future, he feels a sense of renewal. The past is behind him, and although the road to recovery was difficult, it was one that led him to a place of clarity and peace. With Grace by his side, he begins a new chapter, one where he is no longer defined by the betrayal, but by the man he has become. Caleb's life slowly begins to return to a semblance of normalcy. He spends more time at the shop, working alongside his dedicated team, gaining respect and building a reputation in the community. However, despite the growth in his business and personal life, Caleb is haunted by moments of self-doubt. The scars of his marriage to Veronica still linger, especially when it comes to his ability to trust people again. While Grace provides him with warmth and companionship, Caleb often holds back. He knows that his wounds run deep and fears that allowing anyone to get too close might lead to more heartbreak. Grace notices the walls Caleb has built around himself and is patient. She never pushes him but gives him the space he needs while showing her care through small, consistent gestures. She becomes a steady presence in his life, someone he can rely on to help him rebuild trust, one step at a time. One evening, Caleb receives an unexpected visit from Naomi, his attorney who had guided him through the divorce. She sits across from him in his office, her eyes filled with sympathy. Naomi has been a key ally through his painful journey, but as the conversation unfolds, it becomes clear that she has her own struggles. Her recent divorce had left her in a similar emotional state as Caleb. "I've been following how things are going with your business, Caleb," Naomi says, her voice soft but steady. "And I see you're doing well, much better than I expected. But there's still something you haven't dealt with, haven't faced yet." Caleb stares at her, unsure of where this conversation is headed. "You're moving forward, but you haven't fully let go of your anger. You've used revenge as a way to cope, but that's not enough. It won't fill the emptiness inside you." Naomi's words hit harder than Caleb anticipated. She knows him too well. "It's time for you to make a decision. Do you want to keep living in the shadow of Veronica's betrayal, or do you want to finally release it and move on, really move on?" For the first time in a long time, Caleb allows himself to feel the full weight of Naomi's question. He's been angry at Veronica, at Evan, and at life for so long that he never considered what it would be like to completely heal. To truly forgive, not just them, but himself. The next few weeks bring a pivotal shift in Caleb's journey. After speaking with Naomi, Caleb realizes that the true path to peace isn't through more revenge or bitterness, it's through letting go of the past and embracing forgiveness. He writes a letter to Veronica, one that he doesn't intend to send immediately but to help him release the anger and frustration he's been holding on to. In the letter, he writes about the pain, the betrayal, and the emotional toll it took on him. He writes about the love they once had and how it felt like a dream that was shattered. He acknowledges his mistakes too, his role in the breakdown of their relationship. But above all, he writes about forgiveness, not for her, but for himself. He acknowledges that to move forward, he needs to free himself from the burden of resentment. He writes the letter, folds it up, and locks it away, knowing that letting go of the past will ultimately free him to live a fuller, happier life. One afternoon, Caleb and Grace go for a walk in the park, something they haven't done often. Caleb's heart feels lighter than it has in months. He turns to Grace, his expression serious but filled with newfound clarity. "I've been carrying a lot of weight from the past," he begins, his voice hesitant at first but growing stronger. "I haven't always been fair to you. I didn't realize how much my own fears were holding me back from truly being with someone again. But I'm ready to be present now. I'm ready to give this a real chance." Grace smiles, her eyes soft with understanding. "You don't have to carry all that weight alone, Caleb. We'll take it one day at a time." And with that, Caleb finally feels like he's found a way to let go, of Veronica, of Evan, and most importantly, of the anger and fear that had clouded his ability to truly embrace love again. For the first time in years, Caleb feels the promise of a future that is not haunted by the mistakes of his past. As Caleb continues his journey, he begins to take on new projects at his auto repair shop, expanding his business, training apprentices, and even starting a mentorship program for troubled youth in the community. Caleb realizes that the pain from his past doesn't have to define him. Instead, he uses it as a foundation to build something greater, not only for himself but for the people around him. Grace becomes more than just a companion, she becomes his partner in rebuilding the life they both deserve. Together, they begin making plans for the future, dreaming of a life full of new experiences, travel, and a love that is built on trust, patience, and the healing they've found together. Caleb knows that his journey is far from over. He's learned that healing is not linear, and there will be moments of doubt and uncertainty. But he is finally in a place where he can face those moments without letting them control him. He's built a life that's stronger, more authentic, and full of hope, and for the first time in years, he can finally look ahead with excitement, not fear. Caleb's life, now steadily growing in both personal and professional aspects, seems to be moving toward a more peaceful future. His relationship with Grace deepens, and the mentorship program he started at his auto shop begins to see positive results. The troubled youths who once came in with little hope are now showing real promise, learning not only technical skills but also life lessons from Caleb. It's a reflection of how far he has come, transforming his pain into purpose. But, as is often the case, life has a way of throwing curveballs. One afternoon, Caleb receives an unexpected phone call from his old friend, Tom. Tom is the one who had always been there for Caleb during the early days of his marriage, and the one person who knew about his struggles with Veronica. Tom's voice sounds heavy on the phone. "Caleb, I don't want to cause you any trouble, but I think you should know something," Tom begins. "I've heard some things about Evan, things I don't think you're aware of." Caleb's heart tightens as he listens to Tom explain that Evan, after losing everything, has resorted to even darker paths, getting involved in dangerous underground activities, and making threats to Caleb's business. While Caleb thought his past was behind him, it seems that Evan's desperation is reaching out to haunt him once more. This revelation throws Caleb into turmoil. He thought Evan was out of his life for good, but now, with the threat looming over his head, Caleb finds himself faced with yet another battle. He knows that while his life has been healing, he can't afford to ignore the lingering dangers of his past. After a long conversation with Grace, who reassures him that he doesn't need to go through this alone, Caleb reaches out to his trusted lawyer Naomi once more. He explains the situation, and together, they strategize a way to protect Caleb's business and his new life. Naomi helps Caleb take legal precautions, including securing a restraining order against Evan and ensuring his business's assets are well protected from any malicious threats. While dealing with the looming danger, Caleb also takes a more proactive role. He's not the same man he was when Veronica's betrayal first broke him. Now, he's calmer, more measured in his responses, and ready to take action without letting fear control him. The situation with Evan requires him to once again face his past but with a different mindset, a mindset of control, not revenge. As Caleb confronts the lingering threat from Evan, he begins to see how far he's come emotionally. This time, he doesn't feel the same bitterness he once had. He no longer harbors the desire to destroy Evan's life in retaliation. Instead, Caleb is resolute. He will take the necessary steps to protect himself, but he doesn't want to let Evan's toxicity dictate his life anymore. One day, after a tense meeting with his lawyer, Caleb finds himself sitting alone in the quiet of his office. He pulls out the letter he wrote to Veronica months ago, the one he never sent, and reads it once more. This time, instead of feeling the anger and resentment he once did, Caleb feels a sense of calm. He realizes that even if the past still has its consequences, he's no longer tethered to it. He places the letter in a box, closing it for good, understanding that this symbolic gesture is the final step in his emotional healing. He has forgiven Veronica, not for her sake, but for his own. He's finally free from the chains of the past. While Caleb's past still has occasional shadows that cross his path, he's no longer consumed by them. His bond with Grace deepens as they continue to build a life together. They plan trips, explore new hobbies, and spend time working on Caleb's business projects. The quiet moments spent with Grace remind Caleb of everything he has gained from his journey. One weekend, Caleb takes Grace to a small cottage by the lake, an escape from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives. They sit on the porch, enjoying the simplicity of nature. Grace turns to Caleb, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "You've come a long way, Caleb. I see how much you've grown, not just in your business, but in who you are as a person. And it makes me proud to be by your side." Caleb smiles, his heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Grace. You've shown me what real love is. Not the kind built on perfection, but the kind that's built on understanding, patience, and forgiveness." Grace reaches over, squeezing his hand gently. "And I'll be here, every step of the way." As they look out over the lake together, Caleb realizes that life is full of second chances, and while the road to healing isn't always clear, it's worth taking. What matters is the journey he's taken to rebuild himself, to forgive, and to open his heart again. With Grace by his side and his business flourishing, Caleb feels ready to embrace the future with open arms. He has finally let go of the past, not in a way that erases it, but in a way that allows him to move forward. The lessons he's learned about love, trust, and forgiveness have reshaped him, and he now knows that his story isn't defined by the pain he endured, but by the strength he found in overcoming it. As Caleb looks toward the horizon, he is filled with a quiet confidence. He's no longer the man he was when he was devastated by Veronica's betrayal. He is someone new, someone who has learned to cherish the good in life and protect it fiercely. With each new day, he knows that the future holds endless possibilities. And while the story of Caleb's healing may not have a perfect ending, it's one of growth, renewal, and the promise that no matter what comes next, he has the strength to face it. As the months go by, Caleb finds himself becoming more confident in his ability to navigate life's challenges. His auto repair shop continues to grow, and the mentorship program he's started for troubled youth has become a cornerstone of his success. He's not just fixing cars, he's fixing lives, guiding young people toward better paths and helping them find their own potential. One afternoon, as Caleb is closing up shop, he receives an unexpected call from an old acquaintance, Corey, a successful entrepreneur who used to come into Caleb's shop for repairs. Corey, now running a growing fleet of delivery trucks, tells Caleb that he's looking to expand and needs someone he can trust to manage his fleet's maintenance. He offers Caleb an incredible opportunity, to become his business partner in a venture that would take Caleb's business to new heights. Caleb is taken aback. He's always dreamed of expanding his auto shop, but this is more than he could have ever imagined. It's a leap into a whole new world of business, one that requires more than just technical expertise. It demands leadership, strategy, and vision. But as he listens to Corey's proposal, Caleb feels a sense of hesitation. He thinks back to the painful years spent rebuilding himself and his business after Veronica's betrayal. He's come so far, but this opportunity seems like a massive risk. Can he really take on such a huge responsibility without losing sight of the life he's built? And more importantly, is he ready for the pressure that comes with being a business partner in something much larger than he's ever managed before? Later that evening, Caleb talks to Grace about the opportunity. She listens intently, her eyes full of understanding. "I can see how much this means to you, Caleb," Grace says, her voice steady and reassuring. "But what do you want?" "I can see that you're hesitant, but that hesitation isn't coming from a place of fear, it's coming from wisdom. You've been through a lot, and you've rebuilt yourself piece by piece. You've proven that you can handle pressure. But the question is, what's best for you and the life you're building?" Caleb takes a deep breath. Grace's words resonate deeply with him. He spent so much of his life worrying about external pressures, trying to prove his worth, trying to heal his past. But now, for the first time, the decision is about what truly makes him happy, not just about doing what's expected or trying to win approval. He spends the next few days reflecting, thinking about his goals, his values, and the future he wants. Eventually, Caleb realizes that while the opportunity is risky, it aligns with his vision of growth, not just as a businessman but as a person who wants to push beyond his comfort zones. With Grace's encouragement, Caleb decides to take the plunge and accept the offer. The first few months as a business partner in the fleet maintenance venture are a whirlwind. Caleb's time is stretched thin, balancing the expansion of his auto repair shop with his new responsibilities. He works harder than ever before, learning new skills and meeting new people, all while trying to maintain his commitment to his mentorship program and his relationship with Grace. But despite the challenges, Caleb feels alive in a way he never has before. The sense of purpose that comes with this new venture is unlike anything he has experienced. Every decision he makes has weight, and with every small success, he feels more empowered to tackle the next hurdle. Grace, ever supportive, notices how much Caleb is growing. She sees his confidence blossom as he begins to take on new leadership roles, not just in his business but in his community. Caleb's growth extends beyond his business ventures. He's learning how to better manage his time, how to handle stress, and, most importantly, how to trust in his own abilities. His relationship with Grace also grows stronger as they share their experiences, challenges, and dreams with one another. However, as Caleb's new responsibilities expand, so do the pressures. One day, during a particularly stressful week, Caleb begins to feel the weight of it all. Juggling multiple business ventures, a growing team of employees, and his personal life starts to wear him down. He begins to notice the familiar signs of exhaustion creeping in, becoming short-tempered, losing sleep, and retreating into his work more than he should. One evening, after a long day of meetings and phone calls, Caleb sits at his desk, staring at the mountain of paperwork in front of him. His mind races, overwhelmed by the constant flow of tasks. He picks up his phone and notices a text from Grace. "Are you okay? You've been quiet today. Let me know when you get a chance to talk." Caleb sighs, feeling the familiar pang of guilt. He knows Grace is worried about him, but he doesn't know how to explain the pressure he's feeling. The last thing he wants is for her to think he's struggling again after everything he's worked for. But, after a moment of hesitation, he picks up the phone and texts her back. "I'm fine. Just a lot on my plate right now. I'll be okay." But deep down, Caleb knows that he's not fine. The old fears from his past are starting to resurface, the fear of failure, the fear of losing control, and the fear of becoming the same person he was when Veronica left him. It's as if the pressure is pushing him back into the shadows of his old insecurities. The next morning, Grace confronts Caleb about his text. She's not angry, but she's concerned. "Caleb, I know you think you need to carry all this on your own, but you don't. You don't have to do it alone." She places a hand on his arm. "You've grown so much, but you're allowed to have moments of doubt. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on me when you need to. Caleb takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of Grace's words. He realizes that, even though he's come a long way, he still needs to be vulnerable with those he loves, especially when it comes to asking for support. I'm sorry, Caleb says quietly. I've been afraid to ask for help, afraid of losing control. But I know now that it's okay to let go sometimes. Grace smiles warmly. It's not about losing control, Caleb. It's about finding balance and trusting that those around you, especially me, are here to help you carry the load. In the months that follow, Caleb learns to find balance in his life. He continues to excel in his business ventures, but he also prioritizes his mental and emotional well-being. He finds ways to delegate tasks, take time for himself, and nurture his relationship with Grace. Together, they build a life that's full of hope, love, and shared dreams. Caleb's journey is one of constant growth, learning from his past, overcoming his fears, and embracing new challenges with resilience. He now understands that success isn't just about achieving goals, it's about learning how to live authentically, without the burden of the past weighing him down. With Grace by his side, Caleb is no longer a man defined by his pain, but by his capacity for growth, love, and perseverance. The future, while uncertain, is something he's ready to face with open arms, knowing that he has the strength to handle whatever comes next. As Caleb's life seems to be in a steady rhythm, he receives another unexpected challenge, this time from within his business. His trusted manager at the auto shop, Jake, who had been with Caleb since the very early days of rebuilding his life, approaches him one evening with troubling news. I don't know how to say this, Caleb, but I think we're being undercut, Jake begins, his face pale. Someone's been stealing from the shop, parts, tools, even cash. I've looked into it, and I have a good idea of who's behind it. The news hits Caleb hard. His first instinct is to feel betrayed, but then he remembers the lessons he's learned over the past few years. It's not about responding with anger or acting impulsively. This time, he wants to handle it differently. Jake confides in him that he believes one of the newer employees, a young man named David, is the culprit. Caleb's gut tells him that this is not a simple theft, it's a test of the integrity he's worked so hard to build in his shop. But instead of rushing into a confrontation, Caleb takes a step back. He decides to investigate further, collecting evidence and carefully observing David's behavior. Throughout the process, Caleb experiences a surge of frustration and doubt. Could it be that, despite all his efforts, his business is now being tainted by dishonesty? Does this signal a failure in his leadership? Grace, ever his steady support, notices Caleb's turmoil. When they talk that evening, Caleb shares his worries. I can't help but feel like I'm failing. I've worked so hard to build trust in this place, and now I feel like it's all coming undone, Caleb admits. Grace listens quietly, then responds with a gentle smile. This is just another test, Caleb. You've faced bigger challenges before. It's not about whether you're perfect, it's about how you rise to meet these obstacles. You're not failing. You're evolving. You've learned from your past, and you can use those lessons to guide you now. Her words bring Caleb a sense of calm. He knows that growth doesn't come without setbacks. After carefully weighing his options, Caleb decides to have a private conversation with David. The next day, Caleb calls David into his office. He doesn't accuse him outright, but instead opens the conversation with honesty and understanding. He lets David know that he's aware of the discrepancies in the shop and asks him to explain his side. David, initially defensive, eventually breaks down. He admits to taking the parts and money, but he reveals that it's not out of malice. He's been struggling financially, trying to support his family after a series of personal setbacks. Caleb listens, his heart aching for the young man who has made poor decisions in a desperate attempt to solve his problems. I'm sorry, David says, his voice shaky. I never meant to hurt the shop. I just didn't know what else to do. I've been trying to keep it all together, and I lost my way. Caleb takes a deep breath. This moment could have spiraled into a confrontation, but instead, he sees it as an opportunity for redemption, not just for David, but for himself as well. Caleb offers David a chance to make things right. He asks him to repay the stolen goods and work extra hours to compensate for the loss, with the promise of ongoing support and counseling to help him get back on track. The conversation ends with David expressing sincere gratitude, promising to work hard to redeem himself. Caleb watches him leave, feeling a quiet sense of peace. He's learned something important, that forgiveness is not just about absolving others, but about embracing the opportunity for change. The lesson, Caleb realizes, is as much for him as it is for David. With the issue at the shop resolved, Caleb feels an even stronger sense of self-awareness. The challenges he faces are not setbacks but opportunities to reaffirm his commitment to the values he's built his life upon: integrity, growth, and compassion. As he continues to mentor the young people in his program and expand his business, Caleb becomes more comfortable with the ebbs and flows of life. He understands that the future will never be without its hurdles, but he knows how to face them. His relationship with Grace continues to blossom. They find new ways to connect, share dreams, and support each other through the complexities of life. Caleb no longer feels burdened by his past. Instead, he embraces the journey, knowing that growth doesn't come in perfect steps, it comes in messy, beautiful, sometimes painful movements that ultimately lead to something greater. One evening, while sitting together at their favorite cafe, Grace takes Caleb's hand. "You've come so far, Caleb. You're not the man I met all those months ago. You're stronger, wiser, and more sure of who you are," she says, her eyes full of love. Caleb smiles softly. "I've had a lot of help getting here, Grace. It's been a long road, but I think I'm finally at peace with who I am." They sit in silence, watching the world pass by. For the first time in years, Caleb feels a sense of complete contentment. He's not waiting for something to happen. He's living in the moment, accepting that life is imperfect but full of endless possibilities. As time goes on, Caleb continues to excel in his career, mentoring those around him and leading by example. But the final test comes in the form of a personal challenge that reminds him just how far he's come. His auto repair shop reaches a point where it can no longer sustain the volume of work it has been receiving. Caleb realizes that in order to keep moving forward and continue growing, he needs to expand once again, this time on a larger scale. The opportunity to open a second location presents itself, and Caleb is faced with another difficult decision. Does he take on this responsibility, risking burnout and stretching his resources thin? Or does he choose to maintain what he has built and preserve the balance he has worked so hard to create? After careful reflection, Caleb decides that the right path isn't always about growth for the sake of expansion. Instead, it's about creating a life that fulfills him, not just professionally, but personally. With Grace's encouragement, Caleb chooses to focus on quality over quantity, improving his current shop and continuing his work with the mentorship program. He's learned that true success isn't measured by how much you have, but by how much you can give and how balanced you can keep your life. The expansion isn't about adding more work, but about deepening the connections he's made with his team, his community, and himself. In the years that follow, Caleb's life continues to evolve in a way that brings him joy and fulfillment. He finds purpose in mentoring others, expanding his outreach program, and helping those who are struggling, just as he once struggled. He knows that the pain of his past doesn't define him, but the lessons he learned along the way have shaped him into the man he is today. With Grace at his side, Caleb embraces the fullness of life, content with the knowledge that he has overcome his darkest moments. He no longer fears what the future holds, because he understands that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. And in that growth, he has discovered the most important lesson of all: true peace comes from within, and the greatest success is found in the journey of healing, love, and self-acceptance. As Caleb looks back on his life, he knows that he has lived it to the fullest. He's learned from his mistakes, risen above his fears, and embraced the future with open arms. Caleb's journey has been one of transformation, from a man broken by betrayal to someone who now knows the true power of resilience, love, and second chances. His story is a testament to the strength we all have within us to rebuild and start anew. But just like Caleb, we all have our own stories to tell. What challenges have you faced, and how did you overcome them? We want to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed Caleb's journey and want to see more stories of transformation, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We'll bring you more inspiring stories that prove it's never too late to change. Join our community and be a part of this incredible journey. We can't wait to hear from you.